Hi friends, I am Uday Sagar Kanpal and I welcome you all to yet another lecture on class 6 in History NCERT chapter 11 with fact elaboration by Uday Sagar Kanpal. The name of the chapter is Buildings, Paintings and Books. So this is the last chapter of the books for class 6 History. So let's start. Metallurgy in ancient India. The history of metallurgy in the Indian subcontinent began prior to the 3rd millennium BCE and continued well into the British Raj. Metals are related concepts were mentioned in early Vedic age texts, and the Rig Veda already uses a Sanskrit term ayas, metal. The Indian culture and commercial contacts with the Near East and the Greco-Roman world enabled an exchange of metallurgical sciences. The reference to the ayas in the Rig Veda probably refer to the bronze or copper than to the iron. Scholars like Bhargav maintain that Rigveda was written in the Vedic state of the Brahmavart and the Khetri copper mines from an important location in Brahmavart. Vedic people had used copper extensively in agriculture, water purification, tools, utensils, etc. The Atharvaveda and the Satpat Brahman refers to as Krishnayas black metal, which could be iron, but possibly also iron ore, and iron items are not made of smelted iron. There is also some controversy. It is in terms of Shyamas, black metal refers to iron or not. The Yajurved seems to know iron. The Taittiriya Upanishad, the Taittiriya Samhita are references to ayas and at least one reference to smiths. The Satpat Brahman 6.1.3.5 refers to the smelting of metallic ore. In the Manusmriti 6.7.1, the following analogy is found: for as the impurities of metallic ore melted in the blast of furnace are consumed, even so the taints of the organs are destroyed through the suppression of the breath. Metals are also used in agriculture, and Buddhist text Sutta Pitta has the following analogy: for as a plowshare that has got hot during the day, when thrown into the water, splashes, hisses, and smokes in volumes. The copper bronze is metallurgy in the Harappan civilization was widespread and had a high variety and quality. The early use of iron may have developed from practice of copper smelting. Brass was used in Lothal and Atranji Khera in the 3rd and the 2nd millennium BC. The brass was probably zinc and also found at Taxila in 4th to 3rd century BC. The deepest gold mines in the ancient world were found in the Musky region of the Karnataka. There were ancient silver mines in the northwest India dated to the middle of the 1st millennium BC. Gold and silver were also used for making utensils for the royal family and the nobilities. The royal family wore costly fabrics, so it may be assumption that gold and silver were beaten into thin fibers and embroidered or woven into the fabrics or dress. So gold, silver, copper, iron, all were probably in use sometime or the other in ancient India. Now let's talk about the iron pillar at Mehroli. The iron pillar of Mehroli is a structure 23 feet 8 inches or 7.2 meters high with 16 inches, that's 40.64 centimeters diameter, that was constructed by the Chandragupta II, reigned 375 to 415 CE, and now stands in the Qutub complex at Mehroli in Delhi, India. It is famous for rust-resistant composition of the metals used in the construction. The pillar weighs over 6 tons, that's about 13,228 lb, and is thought to have been erected elsewhere, perhaps outside the Udagiri caves, and moved to its present location in the Delhi Sultanate. The oldest inscription on the pillar is that of the king named Chandra. Now let's talk about the stupas. The stupa or Sanskrit stupa is a mound-like hemispherical structure containing relics that is used as a place of meditation. A related architectural term is chaitya. So stupa is also called chaitya, which is a prayer hall or temple contained a stupa. In Buddhism, circumambulation or pradakshina has been an important ritual in devotional practice since the earliest time, and stupas always have a pradakshina path around them. The stupa underwent major revolutions in the area of Gandhar. Since Buddhists spread to Central Asia, China, ultimately Korea and Japan through Gandhar, the stylish evolution of the Gandhar stupa was very influential in the later development of the stupa, also related artistically or architectural forms in these areas. The Gandhar stupa followed several steps generally towards moving towards more and more elevation and addition of decorative element, leading eventually to the development of pagoda, that is the pagoda tower. The main stupa type are in chronological order in the picture in Wikipedia. According to Buddhist tradition, Emperor Ashok ruled 273 to 232 BC, recovered the relics of the Buddha from earlier stupas except from the Ramgram stupa, and erected 84,000 stupas to distribute the relics across India. In effect, many stupas are thought to date originally from the time of Ashok, such as Sanchi and Kesaria, which he also erected pillars with his inscriptions, and possibly Behrut, Amravati, Dharmajika in Gandhar. Ashoka also established the pillars of Ashoka throughout his realm, generally next to the Buddhist stupas. Stupas were soon to be richly decorated with sculptural reliefs, following the first attempts of Sachi Stupa number 2, 125 BC. Full-fledged sculptures, decorations, and scenes of the life of Buddha would soon follow at Bhairu, both 1815 BCE, Bodh Gaya 16 BC, Mathura 125 to 60 BC, and again at Sanchi for an elevation of the Torans 1st century BCE and Amravati 1st to 2nd century CE. The decorative embellishments of stupas also had a considerable development in the northwest in the areas of Gandhar with decorated stupas such as Budka stupa, the monumentalized with Hellenistic decorative elements from the 2nd century BC, or the Lorian Tangai stupas, the 2nd century CE. Development in Gandhar 3rd century BC to 5th century CE. The Dharmajik stupa with a near Indian design with a semi-hemispheric stupa almost directly on the ground surface probably dated to the 3rd century BC. Similar stupas are the Budkar Stupa, the Manikal Stupa, and the Chakpat Stupa. The Saidu Sharif Stupa, pillared in the Kwangshial, with a flight of stairs to a dome elevated on a square platform. Many Gandhar miniatures represented a spectacular type 1st century CE. The Lorian Tanga Stupa, with an elongated shape and narrative reliefs in many ways, the classical Gandharan Stupa, 2nd century CE. The near pyramidal Jolian Stupa, 2nd century CE. The cruciform type, as in the Bhamal Stupa, with the flights of stairs in the 4 cardinal directions, 4th century CE. The towering design in the 2nd Kanishk Stupa, 4th to 5th century CE. So there are a lot of designs of stupas. So early Hindu temples. Now let's come to temples. The Hindu temple architecture, as the main form of Hindu architecture, has mainly varieties of style. Through the basic nature of the Hindu temple remains the same, with essential feature on inner sanctum, the Garbhagriha or the womb chamber. So important point of Hindu architecture is the Hindu temple. An important feature of the Hindu temple is the Garbhagriha or the womb chamber, where the primary murti or the image of the deity is housed in a simple bare cell. Around this chamber there are often the structures and buildings, in large cases covering the several acres on the exterior. The Garbhagriha is crowned by a tower-like shikhar, also called the Viman of the south. The shrine building includes a circumambulatory passage for parikrama, a mandap conjuration hall, and sometimes an antral, antechamber and porch between the Garbhagriha and mandap. There may be further mandapas or the other buildings connected and detached in large temples together with other small temples in the compound. Hindu temple architecture reflects a synthesis of arts and ideals of dharma, beliefs, values, and the way of life cherished under Hinduism. The temple is a place for pilgrimage. All the cosmic elements that create and celebrate life in the Hindu pantheon are present in the Hindu temple, from fire to water, from image to nature to deities, from feminine to the masculine, from karma to earth, from the fleeting sounds and incense smells to Purush. The eternal nothingness yet universally is a part of Hindu temple architecture. The form and the meanings of architectural elements of the Hindu temple are designed to function to the place where it is a link between the man and the divine, to help his progress to spiritual knowledge and truth. His liberation is called moksha. The architectural principles of Hindu temples in India are described in the Shilpa Shastras and Vastu Shastras. There are hardly any remains of Hindu temples from the Gupta dynasty from the 4th century CE. No doubt that there were early structures in timber-based architecture. The rock-cut Udaygiri caves are almost the most important early sites, built with the royal sponsorship, recorded by inscriptions, and with the impressive sculpture. The earliest preserved Hindu temples are simple cell-like stone temples, some rock-cut and other structural, as at the Temple 17 at Sanchi. By 6th-7th century, these evolved into high shikhar stone superstructures. However, there is an inscriptional evidence such as ancient Gangadhar inscription from the 424 states Meester that towering temples existed before this time, and these were possibly made from the perishable material. These temples have not survived. Examples of early North Indian temples that have survived after the Udaygiri caves in the Madhya Pradesh include those at Tigawa, Deogarh, Parvati Temple, Nachna, 465, Bhitargaon, the largest Gupta brick temple to survive, Lakshman brick temple, Sirpur, 600 to 625 CE, Rajiv Lochan temple, Rajim, 7th century, Gop temple in Gujarat, 550 or later, is an oddity with no surviving close comparator. No pre-7th century CE South Indian style stone temples have survived. Examples of early major South temples that have survived, some in ruins, include the diverse styles at the Mahabalipuram from 7th and 8th centuries. However, according to the Meester, the Mahabalipuram temple are monolithic models of variety of formal structures, all of which have already been said to typify a developed Dravid South Indian order. They suggest a traditional and a knowledge base existed in South India at the time of the early Chalukya and Pallava era, where these were built. Other examples are found in the Aihole and the Pattadakal. Early paintings. Now come to the paintings. Indian paintings have a very long tradition and history in the Indian art, though because of the climatic condition, very few examples survive. The earliest Indian paintings were the rock paintings of the prehistoric times, such as a petroglyphs found in the place like Bhimbetka rock shelter. Some of the Stone Age rock paintings found among the Bhimbetka rock shelters are approximately 10,000 years old. India's ancient Hindu and Buddhist literature have many mentions of the palaces and other buildings decorated with paintings, but the paintings of the Ajanta caves are the most significant of the few ones which survive. Indian paintings can be broadly classified as murals, miniatures, and painting on cloth. Murals are a large work executed on the walls on solid structures, as in Ajanta caves and the Kailashnath temple. So Ajanta caves and Kailashnath temple are point to be noted. Paintings on cloth were produced in the more popular context, often as folk art, used, for example, by traveling reciters of epic poetry such as the Bhopals of the Rajasthan and the Chittakathi elsewhere, and brought as souvenirs for pilgrims. Very few survivals are older than the 200 years, but it's clear that traditions are much older. Some regional traditions are still producing works. Shadang of Indian painting, Rupabhed, the knowledge of appearances, Pramanam, correct perception, measures and structure, Bhav, action or feeling on forms, Lavanya Yojanam, infusion of grace, artistic representation, Sadrishyam, similitude, Varnik Bhang, artistic manner of using brush and colors, Tagore. The subsequent development of painting by the Buddhists indicates that these six limbs were put into practice by Indian artists and are the basic principles on which the art was found. Early books. The name Vedas are sacred hymns which are a large body of texts originating in ancient India composed in the Vedic Sanskrit. The texts constitute the oldest layer of Sanskrit literature and the oldest scriptures of Hinduism. There are 4 Vedas, all of which constitute to Hindu canon, but they are all largely religious scriptures and some telling it to be God's words. Each Vedas have 4 subdivisions: the Samhitas, mantras and benedictions; the Arnyakas, text on rituals, ceremonies, sacrifices and symbolic sacrifices; the Brahmanas, commentaries on rituals, ceremonies and sacrifices; and the Upanishads, texts discussing the meditation, philosophy and spiritual knowledge. The alternate name for Vedas are Samhitas, date 1500 to 500 BCE. Shakhas, Vedic school. Each school taught a Vedic Veda in specific way over time, evolving specific styles and emphasis based on how, by whom, where it was taught. Then Brahmanas, commentary on elaboration on Vedas and description of religious procedures. Upanishads, philosophy in response to Vedas and Brahmanas. There are 108 Upanishads, among which 13 are considered as principal ones, dated from 800 to 600 BCE. Vedant, later commentary of the Vedas, Brahmanas and Upanishads. Itihasas, Ramayana and Mahabharata are known as Itihasas, thus it's happened. Pali Canon, essential collections of teachings of Shakyamuni Buddha, as written by in the 3 centuries later. Alternative name for the Pali Canon is Tripitak. Puranas, historical text, usually a royal lineage, written by court-appointed historians, usually contrasted with the historical description in Vedas, Brahmanas, etc., that is written by priests. Then Dharmashastra, collection and description of laws, man-made and natural. And then Sangam, literature, collection of texts on ethics, polity, love and ancient lifestyle of Indian, 300 BCE to 250 BCE. So a famous Tamil epic, Silappatikaram, was composed by a poet named Ilango around 1800 years ago. It is a true story of a merchant named Kovalan who lived in Puhar and fell in love with a courtesan named Madhavi, neglecting his wife Kannagi. Later he and Kannagi left for Madurai, where he was accused of theft by the court jeweler of the Pandya king. The king ordered to kill Kovalan. Kannagi still loved Kovalan and in her anger destroyed the city of Madurai. Another Tamil epic, Manimekkallai, was composed by Sattanar around 1400 years ago, which describes the story of daughter of Madhavi and Kovalan. Books on science. Aryabhatta, mathematician and astronomer, wrote a book called Aryabhattim. He stated that day and night were caused by rotation of Earth on its axis. He also found a way of calculating the circumference of a circle, which was nearly as accurate as today. He discovered zero. Varahamihir, Bhaskaracharya, Brahmagupta were some important mathematicians and astronomers who made several discoveries. Ayurveda was a practice by Charak Samhita, and Shushruta Samhita. So hope you like my lecture. Thank you for watching. Bye bye. Have a nice day.